Hey there, Brewers fans. My name is Seth Stowe, a Brewer Fanatic, brewerfanatic.com, welcoming you to another, episode of, and we're going to have to come up with a better name, but talk. And we're talking with players and radio voices from the different affiliates. And today we are going to do Biloxi Shuckers talk with Javik Blake. He's in his second year as the voice of the Biloxi Shuckers. We'll talk to him a little bit about his background, get his thoughts on what he would recommend a kid in high school interested in career in sports should consider as they look to that path. And then, frankly, we're going to spend most of the time just talking about players on the Biloxi Shuckers roster, a very talented roster. They've had an interesting week, that's for sure. But you don't want to hear me talking. I'm boring. Let's bring in the star of the show for today, and that is Javik Blake. Again, the voice of the Biloxi Shuckers. Javik, how are we doing today?
I'm good. We're about to play some baseball at the time of this recording, which, as you alluded to, has been a tough thing this week in good old Pearl, Mississippi. So we're excited to get back after it. And thanks so much for having me on.
On the road on Tuesday, you had a rain out. You doubleheader Wednesday. Thursday, you had a rain out. Doubleheader today. You may watch this tomorrow or one of the next day or two, but as a radio voice, what are some of the things, and I'm going to start this as a regular question, what are some of your day-to-day things that you do, and then how's a rain out and a doubleheader kind of alter that at all?
Well, rain out in a doubleheader. First off, the day you get rained out, it's pretty boring. You go to the ballpark ready to go. Like, I have my book all ready to go, and you get to a point where you're not playing baseball and you're like, all right, I guess we'll just restart this tomorrow. So, it's just one of those funny things. And then obviously the second game of a doubleheader is always crazy because you're running around in a circle, especially at home, getting lineups and updates and stuff. On the road, you're scrambling to get your social graphic updated for, your lineup and everything like that. So they're a little bit crazy. But it's good to be playing baseball. It's better days with baseball than without baseball. But to answer your other question, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not. Chris Marion talked about this when you interviewed him. You don't just show up at 5:30 and call the game. There's a lot more that goes into it, especially on the minor league side of things. For me, I'm in charge of all of our media relations. So that's in charge of all of our game recaps, all of our written content for our program that we put out monthly, all of our game notes, all of our rosters, all of our transactions, our virtual press box, and then coordinating any player interviews and stuff like that throughout the season as well with media partners. On top of that, broadcasting the game, where we're our own producer, we're our own engineer, we're running our board, we're running the stuff back in the studio per se. Google Remote Desktop, greatest invention in human history. You can be the producer while you're sitting here calling. You're doing social media graphics for your lineup and your final score. You're sending out stuff to sponsors if they have a promotion, if the Shuckers win, to activate said promotions. You have, I'm in charge of our website as well, so I'm in charge of all that stuff. And yeah, I think that's most of it. But it's a lot. It's a lot of fun. And that's one of the fun parts about minor league baseball is you get to do so much. You're always busy, and there's always something new every time you show up to the ballpark, which is so much fun, and I really enjoy it.
I guarantee somewhere on your job description, in terms of the duties and things you have to do from day to day, there is a line item for miscellaneous that probably ends up at least 10 to 20% of your day that you just have no idea what's going to come and you just got to deal with it.
Well, and that includes tarp. And unlike big league teams, we do not have, a 30-person tarp crew. We are the tarp crew. So, there will be days where it is, we're getting ready for first pitch, or I wrap up post game and instantly I'm in shorts and a t-shirt on the field pulling tarp, or, you're up early pulling tarp, especially in the Southern League because it rains. It's the Southeast. It rains a lot, especially in the summer. So you get pretty familiar with the tarp, and it's all fun parts of the job. And I think that's one of the special parts about minor league baseball is there is so much you get to do, but you really get to take full advantage of having all these different responsibilities and getting good at all that kind of stuff, which makes minor league baseball so special.
So tell me a little bit about your background. You've been, like I said, second year as the number one guy with the Biloxi Shuckers, but kind of what's some of your background as far as career and, where did you go to school?
Well, I've been a little bit of everywhere. I just kind of keep moving south. Like, that's how it goes. Grew up in Massachusetts, a tiny little farm town. There were more Dunkin' Donuts than stoplights in the town I grew up in. A little town called Norton, Massachusetts. 3 Dunkin' Donuts, 1 stoplight. I've never had a second since I've graduated high school in 2019, but who knows? But yeah, so tiny little town, but started broadcasting there in middle school and high school. I played baseball all throughout high school and stuff, but did everything else broadcasting wise that wasn't baseball. So whether it was softball or basketball or football or hockey or soccer, and then a little bit of baseball as well, just kind of when time allowed, when I wasn't actually playing baseball. Worked 2 summers in the Cape Cod Baseball League with the Wareham Gatemen, which are right before the bridge in the Cape Cod, before you get on Cape Cod. That was my junior and senior year of high school. Then went to college in Elon University in Elon, North Carolina, which is smack dab in the middle of North Carolina, home to George Kirby, former Brewer farmhand, Cam Devaney, and Joe West are the 3 distinguished baseball alums from Elon University. Joe West led Elon to its last football national title in the NAIA in like 1982, and that's his shining light at Elon. But went to Elon. Spent a year with the High Point Rockers, an independent team in the Atlantic League. Worked
Frank Viola.
Frank Viola was the first pitching coach I ever had in my entire career. And talk about just an incredible human being to have as one of your first pitching coaches in your broadcasting career. Nicest human being ever. Just such him, Jamie Keefe, and Billy Horn were the 3 coaches when I was in High Point. And they were all just incredible, especially as a kid who I was 20 years old at that point, 19 years old at that point. So for them to kind of welcome me in and show me the ropes and stuff was really, really big. Then I spent a year in the Northwoods League with the Fond du Lac Dock Spiders, which, funny enough, are owned by the Wisconsin Timber Antlers, who are the high A affiliate of the Milwaukee Brewers, and then went to Biloxi. So it's kind of been all over the map, whether it's Massachusetts, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Mississippi. It's been everywhere, which is the fun part of the job. You get to see so many new places and meet so many people. And as you know, Seth, it's such a small world that you cross paths with everybody, and it's fun to have friends all over the place.
Absolutely, no question about that. One more kind of background question on you then is, if you were to give advice, now you've only been out of high school for a handful of years here, 5 years? What would your advice, if you went back to talk to yourself in high school, or if you were called in to talk to a high school, in Biloxi or in Massachusetts or in Wisconsin or wherever you happen to be, what are some of the things that you would either tell yourself to do differently, or what would you tell others are the key points to deciding if this is really something you want to do?
Well, I think one of the big things is to get experience. I was really fortunate that I went to a high school where they had a camera I could borrow, and they had a headset I could borrow. And then so to do that was really big, because I started broadcasting when I was 12. I think I was 12 years old. Yeah, we got eliminated from the Norton Youth Rec Baseball semis. It was a very heartbreaking loss for 12-year-old me. But then I got to call the championship game on local cable access. That was kind of my first opportunity to do that. And also kind of, ask around, if you want to do baseball, ask around your local minor league teams if there's an empty booth that you can hop into. Because, I did all the broadcasting throughout middle school and high school of a lot of sports that weren't baseball, quite simply because I played baseball.
Right.
But, to be able to do that, I think I did 135 games between 8th grade and my senior year of high school. But I also had an opportunity to do, the Paw Sox had a thing called the Junior Broadcaster Program that I was a part of in 2016 or 2017, maybe even 2015. But they had an opportunity where you would, sign up, or you would, send in an application, send in, a demo reel, whatever, you kind of had when you were that age.
Right.
Send that into them, and you had an opportunity to call the 4th inning of like select Sunday home games. They'd like pick a different kid every week. And I was chosen to do that twice with Josh Maurer, who is now with the Milwaukee Brewers, the big league level, and Will Fleming. So I got to call, that 2 different games with them, in an inning with them. Thankfully, we've switched websites providers over at MILB, and the videos are gone from existence. But that was sort of the thing that really made me want to do minor league baseball is, seeing what they do, seeing what it's like. And I was like, I was probably 14, 15 years old, and I was like, that is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Because I knew the baseball career wasn't going very far. So I was like, this is incredible. I'd always wanted to go into broadcasting, but I didn't really know like what the minor league side of it was. And as soon as I did that, I knew that was exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
No, that's fantastic. And it's nice when what you think you want to do is what you end up actually wanting to do. Real quick, before we jump into talking about players, you're in Mississippi through this weekend. Tuesday, you start a home series against Birmingham, and then the following week, a home series against Pensacola. So you're going to be a lot of home games over the next couple of weeks. Real quickly, anything exciting going on over those 2 weeks? Any prospects coming into town that, I'm one to always encourage people. If you get a chance to go out to the ballpark and you're in that area, do it. It's well worth it.
Yeah, we have a couple cool things. On the prospect side, obviously the White Sox system is kind of revitalized. Drew Thorpe is with the Barons. They have a couple other big guys. Edgar Caro's back, and apparently he decided to just add an ungodly amount of power this offseason. And seeing Pensacola in the Marlins farm system is always fun as well. But at the ballpark, we're always doing so many different promotions and different things to do. We have an alternate identity called the Biloxi Beach Chickens, which is this little logo right here. We're doing that next Saturday in our series against the Barons, but we're doing some T-shirt giveaways. We're doing fireworks every Friday. Kids run the bases after every game. And we just announced our brand new Tiki Bar, our splash pad, our beach and boardwalk area, and it's the Corona Premier Tiki Bar in right field. And it's got like 10 different TVs, a bunch of fans and misters, and all the drinks you could ever want in your entire life right at the ballpark. So it's been really cool. We transformed the ballpark over the offseason. We have a wiffle ball field outside too. But we've done a number of different things to really make it fun for fans, no matter how much you like baseball, whether or not, you're a kid coming to your first game, or you're a diehard Brewers prospect fan that really wants to see the guys. There's kind of something for everyone, and that's the importance of minor league baseball. That's how I got into baseball with the Pawtucket Red Sox out in Rhode Island, who are now the Woessner Red Sox, the Red Sox AAA affiliate. But that's just so important and so fun to be able to see that happen and to give those opportunities to make it fun for everybody.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk players. And in my head, I've gone back and forth. Do I start with pitchers? Do I start with hitters? Do I start with pitchers? Do I start with hitters? Well, we're going to start with hitters because that's what I know better. So just recently, you got a couple of players back into your lineup. First, Wes Clarke, who responded with a couple home runs in a game or in the last week. And obviously getting back last year's top pick in Brock Wilken is a big deal. I know he hasn't maybe hit, since he's been back the way he will, but he will. So what have you seen from those guys since they've been back?
Well, Wes did so good, he decided he was going to head up to Nashville and then just start hitting homers against AAA pitching because AA pitching was too easy for him.
That's right. He hit those 2 home runs in Nashville, didn't he?
2 home runs. He hit 3 home runs last week, quickly up to Nashville. But for Wes, it's seriously, like, outside of him just as a player, he's the nicest human being you might ever encounter on a baseball field. Just such a down-to-earth guy, always incredibly nice, and he hits the ball really hard, really far, really often. So I was so excited to see him get the bump up to AAA because it's really well-deserved. He's a guy who has a thunderous swing. Like, you look at him and you're like, that is a big league bat. Just how the contact sounds, how it looks. And with Brock Wilken, I think the biggest thing for Brock is that he got back to action after getting hit in the face in where we are right now on April 20th, 11th, 15th. Like,
he was not out very long.
No, he was out for 22 games after getting 94 off the face. He's wearing like a softball type mask at the plate. He's wearing kind of one of those plastic ones you'll see softball infielders wear at third, just because it's only been 3 or 4 weeks since he got smashed in the face. And usually guy gets hit in the face, you're like, okay, that might be 6 to 8 weeks, but no, quickly back to action. He had a really good week last week at home against Montgomery. And obviously we've barely played baseball this week against Mississippi. So there's nothing really to conclude from that. We've only played 15 innings of baseball in the last 4 days.
Yeah.
But he's another guy who's really good. The defense really shines. The bat plays really well. And he's one of those guys with a big league mentality. And it's a lot like Tyler Black, who was with us last year, and how he approaches things and kind of how he is mentally. And that's so important for a baseball player. And really impressive to see from Brock because, again, a year ago, he was playing in the College World Series. Now he's in AA. And, he has the mentality and carries himself like a guy who has been in pro ball for way more than a year.
That was my question. If you were just saying that they have an air of professionalism about them that, that's noticeable.
Yeah, no, it's really noticeable. And I think that's a big thing that the Brewers do with guys throughout their system. You could see it last year a lot with like Jefferson Caro and Tyler Black. Tobias Myers was another one. And you can see it the same this year with a lot of guys on this roster. And I think that's the exciting part of it. Because, you can have all the talent in the world, but, that big league mentality of, taking it one day at a time and not letting, your downs get to, your lows get too low, or your highs get too high, that really carries. And especially when you're playing 138 games, everyone's going to have at least one slump. And, the mental attitude to get through it and to keep level headed, I think is really big. And we see that from a number of guys on this roster, which is really encouraging.
Yeah. When the Brewers drafted Wilken, again, from a big time college, big time power, all that. And then they drafted Mike Boeve a couple of rounds later. And I think, smaller school, obviously, kind of a mid-major. But he came in and raked. He started the year at Wisconsin, and I know he earned about a promotion in about 3 weeks. And I think he had maybe 1 or 2 rough games for you, and he's continued to keep hitting. So again, what have you seen from him? I know he's been more doubles, triples than home runs to this point in AA, but does he project as an overall hitter? Does he project as a power guy?
I think he's very much just an overall hitter. He just hits the ball hard everywhere. And one of the tough things about the Southern League is we went on the road for 12 games. We played in Pensacola. The wind was in at 19 miles an hour for 6 straight games. That's when he had a lot of the doubles and triples. We go to Tennessee. That's where he has his first home run. We go back to Biloxi, winds in from right all week long. And then we go here to Trustmark Park in Pearl, which is the hardest place to hit in all of AA and maybe one of the hardest places to hit in all of minor league baseball. Baseball America put out their park factors last year, and it's tied with the Arkansas Travelers for the most pitcher-friendly park in all of AA. So it's not easy to hit home runs in some of these visiting ballparks. But I think that's one of the fun things is just seeing how hard he hits the ball and how often he hits the ball. It's to the wall, it's the gap power, it's the singles, it's the doubles, it's the speed on the base paths of just kind of the baseball IQ side of things. And I think that's just vitally important for him. And one of the really cool things to see is just how good he has been. And again, he's only played 60, 70 professional games. And you said he had 2 tough games. He adjusted to AA. That is the biggest jump, one of the biggest jumps in all of minor league baseball, high A to AA. He worked like 2 walks, saw 35 pitches in his first game. He was averaging at one point like seeing 8 pitches per plate appearance in his first 2 games. And I think he's had 1 game without a hit since. 1 or 2. That's it. So he just gets on base a ton. He has a really good eye, a really good approach, and it comes out in just every single way. I mean, it is another one of those guys you look and it's like, that's a future big leaguer right there.
I want to ask this carefully, but on the other side of the spectrum is the previous year's first round pick, Eric Brown. Now he's only played 19 games, so I think he's missed a little bit of time, but a 402 OPS, not getting on base a lot of swing and miss. Actually, not a lot of swing and miss. He doesn't do that. But what are you seeing from him? Obviously, in his AA first month and a half.
He was with us for the back end of last year. He was up for the final week, and he was out for about 2 weeks with an injury this year. Okay. The defense has been terrific, though. The defense has been stellar. Yeah. The stolen bases have been great. He just hits the ball hard, and it ends up right at people. Like, it has to be one of the most unlucky, one of the unluckier bats in AA. He had one off the bat at 105 on Wednesday during our doubleheader. It was like 105 and 104, and they were both right to the second baseman. Like anywhere else, it's a single. So
which tells you he's hitting the ball the other way too.
Yeah, he's hitting the ball well. He's
doing the right things.
Hard. Yeah, he's doing the right things. It's just not falling. Ethan Murray went through the same thing earlier this year, where it took him about 2.5 weeks before the first ball he hit at over 100 miles an hour went for a hit. So, it was one of those things where it's just a little bit of unluckiness. And I think one of the big things for him is he's in the lineup every day. The glove has been terrific. That's one of the big things that, and he's talked about, and a couple other guys have talked about, is that the glove can't slump. And it really hasn't. I mean, it's probably one of the best defensive players we've seen in this league all season.
Wow.
The amount of range he has, the balls that he gets to. I mean, there are balls that are probably about 100 feet off the back of the infield in short left. And he's like a wide receiver, just takes off, gets it, balls 30 feet to his left or right. He's sliding, making diving grabs. So the defense has been really, really good. And once the balls start falling, it's all got to even out eventually, right? So
in theory.
Falling, yeah, you hope so, right? But once the balls start falling, that average is going to climb up. And again, for him, he hasn't played in a ton of games, missed some time. So he's working back from some stuff. So the hope is that those balls start falling and then average starts creeping up over the next bit.
All right. One last question as it relates to hitters. Is there someone else on your roster that may be going under the radar a little bit? I know you got guys like Noah Campbell just came back a little bit ago. He's an intriguing guy to me as a guy that was a non-drafted guy after the COVID-shortened 2020 draft. I've thought Carlos Rodriguez, the hitter, has always been right on the cusp of being a pretty decent prospect. Darian Miller finally moving up from Wisconsin. I'm sure he's happy to get out of Appleton and Grand Chute and head down south. So anyone else that's kind of flying under the radar so far this year?
You took my pick in Carlos Rodriguez. The man just keeps on hitting. He missed 11 days, was on the IL, comes back and instantly goes 3 for 3. It was like just like that. It's like, okay, he just right away. He just hits, man. He just hits. He just keeps on hitting. It started last year and it hasn't stopped. It's his second year at the AA level. And it's really good. It's ridiculous. It just keeps on hitting. It just, everything falls. It's hardline drives. He hit one up the middle, faced Kyle Hendricks, got a hit off of him and actually knocked him out of the game. It was his final pitch that he was going to throw on the day anyways, but he hit it up the middle at 104 and hit it off his cleat. Back up the middle and got a single. So, he's proven it against AA pitching. He's proven it against the one big league pitcher we faced this year. But he just keeps hitting. And he's another guy who's just so much fun to watch. He really had a great winter playing in Venezuela. And it was the first time he got to play in front of his family in his entire professional career. So the fact that he was able to do that, I'm betting you gave him a ton of confidence, but how well he played. He finished second in Rookie of the Year voting in the Venezuelan Winter League. If you look at the numbers, he beat out Ronald Acuna Jr. Acuna Jr. finished third. He finished second.
Wow.
He's a guy who's really fun to watch. And, he just keeps on hitting. And I think that's the fun part of it.
Yeah. And it's always interesting, too, and sometimes unfair that it's about opportunity, and you have to think about who is in Nashville and then who's in the big leagues. So, the fact that he's there for a second year isn't a knock on him. It's just, you need that opportunity to keep moving up. I do want to transition to pitching, just because obviously I think we all know, and, cliches become cliches because they're true, but pitching wins along with defense, and you got to score some runs too. But let's get to the pitching, and I want to kind of go starter by starter and get your thoughts. And because I don't want to take up too much of your time, we'll try to limit it to maybe a minute each. But Bradley Blalock was our choice at Brewer Fanatic for the starting pitcher of the month for April. How has he carried it into May? I see he's got a good strikeout to walk rate. Like the others, he's made 7 starts to this point, 3-1, 2.27 ERA. What does Bradley Blalock throw, and is he continuing to pitch well?
We could just talk about all the starting pitchers. I could boil my response down to one word and just be like, good. good. We could even throw in a really good for a couple of guys too. Blalock's been really good. We'll give him a really good tag.
Okay.
The big thing for him is his fastball. It rides a lot high in the zone. He gets it up to around 91, 93. I think it tops out around 94, 95, but it's a straight over the top arm slot with about 20 plus inches of induced vertical break. And that's how the perceived difference of what it would travel out without gravity.
Right.
So it rides up a lot in the zone. And with that, he's able to get a lot of weak contact off of it. But he also has a really good splitter. So he pairs up the fastball that's not rides up, but it rides. The splitter that dives down. And then he also has a slider as well. So he's able to kind of go up, down, left, right in a couple different directions, which makes it a lot of fun. He's a fun guy to watch. Obviously started the year in a terrific way. Had one kind of, it was a kids' day game and he got 3-run score against him in the first inning. But outside of that, it's been terrific.
Kids' fault. Blame the kids. I'm just going down the list here. Blalock is 23. Jacob Misiorowski, obviously one of the top 2 or 3 prospects in the organization, throws really hard. And I think everyone acknowledges that right now he probably has the pitches to be a big league reliever. I think the question mark that he's had in the past continues to be the question mark, as he's got in 27 and a third innings, 41 strikeouts, fantastic, but 20 walks, which probably is what's keeping him with you guys for right now. So you get to watch him longer, but how has he looked, in person? And stat lines don't always tell everything.
Just an electric factory. I think that's the best way to describe Misiorowski. It's really fun, and no one can hit him. So that's the big part. Is like, yeah, he's got walks, but nobody hits him. So as long as nobody gets hits, they aren't runs. He's right there. It is the best I've seen him pitch since he's come to Double-A, and it's not particularly close of like how good he's been. He's unhittable. Everything's disgustingly good. The sliders are good. The fastball really good. It's all really, really good. And we went on that 2-week road trip to Pensacola and Tennessee, and he put together just 3 terrific outings. And he's right there. Like, you can see it. He's dialed in. And he's right there. Like, it's this close to it being all together. And it's really fun to see, because it's really fun to see the growth from him and to see that he's slowly gotten better and better and better every single start. And now it's just like, all right, it's right there. This next step, this final step is going to be really, really fun when he hits it. And he puts in a ton of work, and when it all comes together, which is looking like it'll hopefully be very, very soon. And it might not be too long before he's up in Milwaukee as the starting pitcher.
Does he have a third pitch? I mean, can he be a starter, or is that kind of, along with a little better command and control, is a third pitch the big issue at this point?
No, not at all. He's got 4. I was just naming the first 2 off the top of my head. I was trying to grab it here in my notes. Fastball, curveball, slider, cutter are kind of the big 4 for him. He does have a little bit of a changeup as well, but the fastball, slider, curveball combo is disgusting. It's unhittable. And the slider's really, really good. The curveball is really good. And anytime you can change speeds and go up to 98, 99, which is fastball average 99 and 3 starts on the road, down to a curveball at 77, that's a 22-mile-an-hour difference. And if you're trying to hit 99 out of the hand, which basically means you're swinging as soon as he releases it, and then he dials it back to 77 with a curveball, good luck.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I enjoy actually having these conversations. You mentioned he hasn't been hittable. His walk per 9 is 6.6. His hit per 9 is 3.3. He's given up 10 hits in 27. It's amazing. That's very noteworthy. So again, continuing down my list, the next guy listed here is Nate Peterson. He's 1-2 with a 3.58 ERA and 7 starts and 32 and 2/3 innings, 16 walks, so about 1 every other inning, and 34 strikeouts, just over 1 per inning. Now, I know he was just drafted last year, and he skipped high A, unless he maybe made a couple of starts there at the end of last year. I don't think he did.
He finished out last year in high A. So he did 2022, did not pitch then. And then last year he split some time between Carolina, and then he made his final 7 starts of the year in Wisconsin before coming out to start this year.
Well, I guess for me, I thought that was a pretty aggressive jump to AA, but again, left-handed, and I don't think he throws as hard as the other guys, but does he fit the role of crafty lefty, or what do you see from Peterson?
It's good. It's good stuff. It misses bats and weak contact. I think that's the big thing. And the big caution when you look at his numbers is you do see the home run totals. He allowed 4 in one game. That is the one time all year that the wind's going to blow out at Shuckers Ballpark in Biloxi. He got a little bit unlucky. One inning, it was right over the wall, right over the wall, right over the wall. So that was, you chalk that up to, you're going to have a couple ones that are just kind of throughout the year. And that was the inning. But he's been terrific. He's really, really good, fun kid. And yeah, he does, he's able to dot a lot of different pitches. Which makes it fun. And again, he's the only lefty that we have as a starter. Madam Seminaris has made 1 start. He's a lefty, but Peterson's the consistent guy in the rotation as a lefty. And to have that, I think is really big and really important.
TJ Shook, 2-4, 3.48 ERA, 44 strikeouts in 33 innings. Another guy that was signed as a non-drafted free agent following the 2020 COVID draft, along with Brandon Canara. I know he's been hurt the last couple of years. I think he had Tommy John surgery, but hopefully he can maybe get back this year. I need to shorten this up because I'm taking too much of your time, but tell me a little bit about Shook. 44 strikeouts in 33 innings, pretty decent.
Yeah, the changeup's disgusting this year. That's one of the big things he talked about. I don't have a baseball around me, but one of the big things he talked about is that in developing the pitch, he's done something called, he manipulates his pinky to get more movement on it. So the more he moves it over towards the outside of the baseball, he's able to get more run off it towards the back end. And there have been some this year. There was one that got 20 inches of run towards the outside corner, which is basically an airbender. It's not an airbender. It's not, anything. It's just a little bit more pronation on it, gets it more. And the change has been disgusting for him. I think if you look at his splits, lefties straight up cannot hit him. Like, it is disgustingly good how exciting he's been this year. And yeah, I got it in front of me. Lefties are hitting 125 against him with 21 strikeouts and 62 plate appearances. And he's all reliable. He's going to get you 5-6 innings every single start, allow 3 runs or less. And as you can see, the strikeouts this year are really piling up in a big way early
on. Tyler Woessner, I assume that's how you pronounce it, but I could be wrong. What is it? Woessner. Sorry about that. I know he had a couple of great months last year at Wisconsin. He's made 4 starts for you guys this year, 20 innings, 29 strikeouts, 4 walks. I know he's got some pretty good stuff as well.
Really, really good. So good. He struck out, I think it was 9 with Nashville the other night in AAA. He was another guy who was with us for 4 starts, quickly up to AAA, which is really exciting. He's a guy who throws it hard, throws it really well. His secondaries are really, really good. And as you can, he had a little bit of an adjustment period in AAA. But his last 2 starts have been just terrific, which has been so much fun to see. He's another just great human being, and a lot of fun. 80-grain mustache and a lot of fun strikeouts.
Well, I knew he had moved up. I guess I actually meant to transition that a little bit better, because the last guy I was going to bring up as a starter is making the start. Disclaimer, we're recording this before the doubleheader on Friday, so we'll see what happens today. But Brett Wichrowski, a draft pick from just last year. Baseball America moved him to number 10 in their top 10 prospects for the Brewers. He's made 2 starts, 8 innings. But, the numbers there, 8 innings isn't going to tell you a lot, but that's a name that kind of came out of nowhere. It's not like he was a high draft pick. He was a day 3 draft pick.
Yeah, it's wild. And I think this, again, speaks to how good, as the stadium music is now turned on here at Trustmark Park. We're doing some kids run is being shown on the video board, but that's the music we're hearing in the background. But he's really good, really fun, really young kid. Again, you said exactly. He is a guy that came out of nowhere. He showed up at spring training this year and turned a lot of heads. and went to Bryant, was used as a starter and a reliever, and then got turned to a starter this year. And the stuff's really fun. The fastball's up to 98. And again, he's made all of like 7 professional starts. Today's his 7th. Today's his 7th. And he's in Double-A. It's ridiculous, and it really speaks volumes to the Brewers scouting department, the Brewers player development department, and again, the Brewers pitching lab, which we know is incredibly good. There have been so many great pitchers that have come through Biloxi, and those are all guys. Then Wichrowski's another guy who's just been terrific, and he's a guy that, like Misiorowski, you're going to see continued progression, start after start after start. You'll be in a good spot.
And now my other phone is ringing. Here's the cliche. I'm a blogger for a long time, and I'm sitting right now in my parents' basement, so it's totally cliche right now. I'm visiting for the weekend. Wanted to ask you about 2 guys real quick, 2 relievers, and one starting again, game 2 today, and Shane Smith. I interviewed him this offseason. What a guy, what a story. The things he's been through physically with his arm, but to have taken a chance on himself like he did, and signing, I think he's got a chance to, one, be fairly fast-tracked, and I'm looking now 28 strikeouts to 3 walks. I mean, that's the stat I always look at, but 17 innings, so literally more than 2 strikeouts per inning. I want to team that with Sam Carlson's a guy you guys got as a free agent this offseason. Minnesota native, but he went drafted in the 2nd round by the Mariners and just was unable to stay healthy most of his career there. What have you seen from him? Again, 2 guys that have gone through injuries. Obviously, Carlson signed out of high school, so he got his signing bonus and then got hurt. Whereas Smith has had to pay his dues, and both I think have been pretty good.
Yeah, Carlson's been terrific. He went 10 straight scoreless innings to start his Brewers organizational career. And he's a guy you see and you're like, how in the world did you end up in free agency? But that also speaks volumes to Sam Carlson as a player and speaks volumes to the Milwaukee Brewers as an organization for continuing to find really good guys everywhere. And, it's something I talked with Tom Flanagan about, the Brewers VP of player operations, baseball operations. It's just like, it's incredible how many great guys they find, whether it's Wichrowski at Bryant, Misiorowski at tiny little Crowder College, Woessner at Central Arizona College, Carlson, free agency, Shane Smith, Wake Forest, but he never really pitched at Wake Forest.
5 innings in 3 years.
Yeah, the ability to find those guys really speaks volumes to the Brewers organizationally. And they're all incredibly good. Carlson's really good. Fastball's at 96, straight over the top. He's got the high socks, the over the head windup. It's like straight out of 1984. Fires it at the plate at 96 from over the top right at you. And then Shane Smith, he's been slowly lengthened this year, and now he's being a starter, which is a very curious thing. Fastball, curveball, slider. He's been going 3 innings very, very increasingly. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Shane Smith, the starter, is like. Because it is, if you look at his career game logs, he does have 3 starts. All of them are 1-inning start in the Arizona Complex League. So Shane Smith, the starter, what does that look like? Is he a guy who can be lengthened out to 4 or 5? Because if that's the case, we've already seen the stuff in the bullpen play very, very well. But if he's able to lengthen out, that might be something the Brewers have there in a big-time way with how good his slider is to pair with that fastball.
Wow. Well, hopefully in a couple of weeks when we do this again, we'll have an update on how Shane Smith, the starter, looks. Again, went over the time I mentioned, but again, I know when I talk to radio voices from minor league or major league teams, you don't have to come up with too many questions to fill the time. So appreciate your time today. The insight's been fantastic. Hopefully we can do this again. And, I really, truly enjoyed it.
Yeah, same here. Thanks much for having me on. And again, you guys continue to do great stuff over at Brewer Fanatic. Always a good read, especially in the minor league side. So appreciate all the extended coverage. Looking forward to
that as well. With that, we'll try to do this every few weeks, get updated on what's going on in Biloxi. And with that, go Brewers and go Shuckers. Have a great weekend.